Hello Bookish Babes and welcome to my book nook. For those that are new to this channel, my name is Rainy and I am an elementary music teacher and middle school musical teacher by day, a circus aerial arts instructor by night, a mom in between, and a bookpreneur, booktuber, book extravaganza, all the things. I will put my Instagram somewhere here underneath this video or right here at Rainy Blue Reads. And on this channel, I'm just going to be sharing my booktube journey. I am a hardcore thriller and horror person, but I also love to dabble in romance and sci-fi and fantasy and things. So if you're interested in that, hit like, subscribe, share, all of that fun stuff. It's free to subscribe, so you should go do it because we're going to have a lot of fun on this channel. But enough talking about that. Let's get into my November wrap-up. So this is my first wrap-up, and my TBR box is a little overflowing. I've read 12 books. The day I am filming this, I have one more day in November technically, so maybe I could fit in one more. So you might be seeing an edited Rainy coming at this tomorrow, but I wanted to get this filmed and ready to go. So let's talk November wrap up. I'm not gonna lie, November was like a really great month for me. I think I read 4 5 stars. I read a couple of 4 stars, a couple of 3 stars, and then I only read like one star. And we'll get to that in a minute. Maybe we'll go up. We'll go from my least ranked to my best ranked. I think that's how we're gonna do it. So let's just talk about 1 star all the way to 5 star. But first, let's share my story graphics for November, because if you don't know about Storygraph, it's basically good. It's not owned by Jeff Bezos, so it's not Goodreads, and I really like it because it shows you like pie charts of like what you read and like how many genres you read and how many pages you read, and like it just breaks it all down for you in like this really nice and actionable way. So let's go over that first. I've got my little notes here so I remember everything. Okay, I read 12 books this month, which was for a total of 4,104 pages, which averages out to about 136 pages a day. My average book pages was about 69% of them were in the 300 to 500 range, which was surprising. I read a lot of big books this time. My average rating was 4.17, so actually kind of higher on the scale, so that's not bad. It was a pretty good month overall. And then I read, according to this, 2 romances, 1 short story, 3 horrors. We're at 3, 4, 5, 6, 5 thriller, and 1 mystery. Technically, that is what those are considered. Although some of them were like in more than one category. Like there were some that were considered thriller and horror and things. But overall, that is what I read. So I read the gamut. I primarily read like thriller and mystery and stuff because that is what I am interested in. And so like I said, we're going to talk about them from my 1 star all the way up and just get started with the book wrap up. Okay, as I was organizing them, I realized I read 6 5 stars. 6 5 stars this month. Anyway, let's get over that. Let's start with my 1.5 star rating, Nothing But Blackened Teeth. I know this has been all over the booktube sphere, and I was honestly really excited for it. I got it right before Halloween, and I was super excited to read it, even though I had already found that 2 of my favorite booktubers, Gabby and Books and Lala, Kayla, hated this. But I was like, I'm gonna give it a chance. Because it's basically about a Japanese mansion that's basically rumored to be that its foundations are resting on the bones of a bride that asked to be buried in the bricks of the wall because her groom never showed up to meet her. I don't know, and it's packed with the remains of her the girl sacrificed to keep her company. So then this like couple decides that they want to get married there, and they bring all their friends there, but then like one of them has dated like the groom, or like one of them has dated like they've all dated each other in like some aspect or form. And so it's basically just like about a haunted Japanese mansion where like people like are known to be sacrificed there and die. And so of course some like shady stuff happens. But like it was literally like 80 pages of them bickering and arguing with one another. Like literally like, oh my God, like I wish like we were dating, or like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that you used to date them, and like you slept with them, and like no one gives a crap about that. I just want to hear the Japanese murder part. And there wasn't anything. Like, I mean, there was a little, but like it was just like sprinkled in with Japanese like murder mystery, like scary crap. And so this was not good. Not good at all. I wouldn't recommend it to a friend. And I'm sad that I spent 20 bucks on this and it was not worth it. So yeah, don't read it. Basically, is the gist of it. It was not good. Then we moved past the 2 stars because I didn't get any, and I have 2 3.5 stars. Such a Quiet Place and When the Reckoning Comes. And I'm going to go with Such a Quiet Place first because I enjoyed this less than When the Reckoning Comes. Such a Quiet Place by Megan Miranda. It's my first Megan Miranda book, and it's not like it was bad, but I just realized like maybe domestic thriller isn't for me. Maybe I need to like dive in and like see what else is interesting, but It's about a little community neighborhood called Hollow's Edge, and how last year a couple, Brandon and Fiona Truitt, were murdered, and they had accused this girl named Ruby Fletcher, who lived in the neighborhood, of doing it. And so she goes to jail, and then she gets bailed out a couple of months later, or it gets overturned, like for some reason, like they decided not to convict her anymore. That's explained in the book. But anyway, she comes back to the town, and everybody assumes it's for revenge, to like revoke, you know, or to finish what she started, essentially. But then there starts to be suspicious notes that pop up to her old roommate, threatening notes, and they all think, oh, maybe we had the wrong killer after all. And so it's like just that sort of vibe. And I'm not gonna lie, I almost DNF'd it, because I was about to like so like maybe 70% in, and it was like so slow and so boring, and nothing had really happened, and I was just like, I need something to happen at this point. And of course, all the action happened in like the last 50 pages. And so it went from a 2 to a 3.5. Pretty good because of the twist at the end. But it still wasn't like a twist that I was like completely all about. Like, honestly, I was kind of like let down by it. It was just not very exciting to me. I mean, it was fine. And like, I'm going to definitely read her again, because I would be interested in seeing like what else she has written. But I mean, it is what it is. It was a domestic thriller, and it was all right. Let's talk When the Reckoning Comes. I actually really very much enjoyed this. I'll explain why I gave it 3.5 stars though. So this is a new horror novel that was released recently. It's apparently LaTonya McQueen's first debut novel. And it's actually pretty good for it being that. And so it's basically about our main character, like Myra, I don't know. I've called her Myra the entire time. Anyway, more than a decade ago, she lived in this small segregated hometown in the South, and she had two best friends, a white girl named Celine and a black kid named Jessie, and they were the best of friends. And then one day something happens between like Jessie and all of them, and they end up like, you know, moving apart, living separate lives, not being friends anymore really. And so then like 10 years has gone by, or over 10 years, and Celine calls up both of them and invites them back to her wedding, which is going to be back in their hometown on an old plantation that they have turned into like a renovated wedding venue place, which of course there's like, it's supposed to be haunted by like all the old slaves, and like they actually have like chapters that like are dedicated to like the slave ghosts and like all of that. But anyway, it's basically just about the story about them reconnecting, but also having to deal with all of like the haunted stuff that comes with like having a wedding on a plantation that used to have like slaves and all of that. And the slaves are like mad and want to seek or ghost slaves, they're mad and want to seek their revenge. So anyway, it had a great premise, and I'm not gonna lie, this hooked me, and it was like really, really, really good. I was at about the 80% page mark, and like I was finally ready to like start seeing some action happen, and then like it didn't go the way I wanted it to go. Not that it went in a bad direction, but it was just kind of like oh, like this is not what I signed up for. Like it was really riveting until the last 50 pages or so, and I was a little sad. So it went to a 3.5. However, the writing was beautiful. She really knows how to hook you. It had a really great premise, so I definitely would still recommend this to people. It just wasn't the ending I was hoping for in a sense, and so for that reason alone, I had to give it a 3.5. But it was still very interesting. Then let's go on to the short stories that I read. The Secret Lives of Church Ladies by Disha Filia. Anyway, I gave this a 4-star because I ranked this by however many short stories there were in this and how many I gave the different rankings to. And I picked up this book solely because Noelle Gallagher told me to. I'm kind of obsessed with her and her booktube because why would you not be? She's fabulous. But I've never really read short stories before because I never really understood like what the, I guess the segue or what the lure, what's the word I'm looking for? What the appeal was to reading short stories. And then after I read some of these, I understood. But some of these were not good. Some of these were not that great. I will tell you, if you're going to read this, my favorite two were Peach Cobbler. That one was fabulous. And I also really loved How to Make Love to a Physicist. But there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There are 9 in here, and I gave at least, okay, I gave that 1 star. That was a 3-star, 4, 4, 4, 5, 4, 3, 3. Yeah, so it was mainly 4 stars, so I gave it a 4 stars. But yeah, several of these I felt like could be their own adaptation or their own book. It was pretty good. But basically, these are all just about, I'll just say with them back. It explores the raw and tender places where Black women and girls dare to follow their desires and pursue a momentary reprieve from being good. The 9 stories in this collection feature 4 generations of characters grappling with who they want to be in the world, caught as they are between the church's double standards and their own needs and passions. And so it was a lot of like empowerment and just spirituality and like how they're navigating their lives during these different times. And I really enjoyed it. It was really nice and refreshing, and I would recommend it if you're looking for a fun little short story saga. And then my last 4-star read before we get into the goods for the 5 stars is The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. And I read The Silent Patient probably last year, and that was my, actually no, I read it this year because this is when I started reading, and it was my favorite book. It is my favorite book of 2021. Like, by far, it's my favorite book. Like, chef's kiss. That was fabulous. This, I held up on reading it for a while, not because I didn't want to, I just never got to it, and I'm really glad I finally did. Alex Michaelides, I really like the way that he writes. It's just very riveting, and like I couldn't put this book down. But it is a dark academia murder mystery about Edward Fosca, who is the professor at Cambridge University, and there are some girls that have been showing up dead, and this one girl, not Zoe, that's not her name, Mariana Andros, who is a brilliant group therapist, she decides that he has done it. And she decides to figure out, or she thinks the reason that he did it is because he leads this group of girls called the Maidens. And she actually tries to like do group therapy with them to try and get them to narc on him. And it's the whole story of how finally she's being targeted by the murderer. And she has to prove that it's the professor. Or if not, then, you know, it's kind of dangerous. But bodies keep showing up everywhere, like girls specifically, which is why she thinks that it's him. And it was really interesting. I gave it a 4-star because the ending didn't really make a lot of sense. Like, it was kind of a stretch. I'm not gonna lie. It was a stretch in, like, the reveal. I don't think that's giving anything away. I just think it was kind of a stretch, and I was, like, not into it. I do like that there are different sections of it. Like, it breaks into, like, part 1, part 2, part 5, all of that. But the ending was just like, I don't think that really worked, but I still loved the rest of it so much, and it was still really intriguing that I still gave it a 4-star because I just read through this super fast. I like his writing style, like I said, but if you're looking for like endings that make sense, like this is not the book to do it for because it didn't, but it is what it is. All right, y'all. We're just going to go with the 5 stars, and we are not going to put them in any order because I don't even think I could decide which one I liked more than the other. Like, I like them all for different reasons. So we're just going to go with, like, where they are in the stack. And we're going to start with the guest list. This is probably one of the most hyped books I borrowed from the library. I've heard nothing but, like, great things about it all over the internet. All over everywhere, all over BookTube, Bookstagram, all things. I have heard only a couple of people say they didn't really enjoy it, and that is basically just a ripoff of Agatha Christie, and I do probably think that's probably true. However, I haven't read any Agatha Christie, so I know, like, kill me now. But anyway, the guest list is all about a remote island off the coast of Ireland where guests are all gathering to celebrate the wedding of Jules Keegan and Will Slater. And Will Slater is like this famous TV celebrity, and she's just a smart, ambitious magazine publisher. And it's a really dark, stormy weekend on this island, and a bunch of guests come in, and it's just the story of a couple of guests about the bride, the groom, the plus one, which is like the bride's best friend is a guy, and so it's his wife. The best man, the wedding planner, and the bridesmaid are the different characters that you get in this. Which I must say, I really enjoyed listening to this on audiobook, which I forgot to mention that. I listened to audiobooks for most of these, like also had the book, the physical copy. But the audiobook was really awesome because they had different people narrate each character, although some of the words didn't line up. Like they would never say marquee, they would say tent, and instead of flashlight, they would say torch. That's probably just because of a British thing. But basically, all of these people have a secret, all have a motive to murder somebody on this island. And so somebody does get murdered. And so, like, I like how it shifts amongst the different characters, like, about, like, their part in the story at the exact time. I really liked it. I didn't think it was that complicated. It was pretty easy to follow. And the ending, like, the way she put all this together and, like, made all their lives interweave and, like, the ending, like, just, it tore me. It ruined me because I was so mad. So mad, but, like, also, like, so, I guess, proud's not the word to say, like, excited that it worked out the way that it did. It was phenomenal. I loved this book, loved this book, and I'm very excited to add it to, like, one of my top books of 2021 because it just it was fire. Let's talk about the book that I read the most recently, I finished today, and that was Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. And this was another one that, like, blew my ever-loving mind. I've been told a lot. Well, first, let's talk about it. It's about a boy named Adam and a guy named Amelia, and they've been married for 10 years, and they are really struggling. Like, their marriage is basically at the seams. And so she wins this getaway vacation to, like, this abandoned chapel called Blackwater Loch, or Blackwater Lake, or whatever, in this part of Canada. And so they decide to go to, like, save their marriage. And then, of course, some freaky stuff starts happening because they're in an abandoned chapel. So what else would you expect? And it basically says at the end, they both know this weekend will make or break their relationship, but they didn't randomly win this trip. One of them is lying, and someone doesn't want them to live happily ever after. And so this book, what I really enjoy about it is that it switches between his and her perspective, but then there's also every year of their anniversary, she writes a letter. Amelia writes a letter to Adam that she never gives him, but writes a letter just basically that's explaining what's been going on in their relationship and how she's feeling. And so they insert that every couple of chapters until you get up to the 10th anniversary and you see what all's been going on. That was great. But then you got to the first twist, and then the second, and then the third, because there are 3 twists in this book, as a lot of people have been saying. And, like, the first twist alone, I was like, what did I just read? What have I just read in this whole entire book? And then you get to the second twist, and you're like, okay, all right, we're getting there. And then the third twist, I was gone. I melted on the floor. I was dead. I was done. It was fabulous. This is the quickest one that I read. I read this in, like, less than a day. It was just fantastic. I really, really enjoyed it. I've never read plot twists like this. I'm sure they exist. I just haven't because, like I said, I'm getting back into my love of reading again after recently. But I would definitely recommend this. It was really great. I'm excited to read more by her. It was great. Let's talk next about Drawn to You by Ren Montgomery, who is a good friend of mine. Like, I actually know the person that wrote this. Anyway, it was really, really good. So it's about Ruby Dearden, who she basically is, she's a successful cartoonist, and she's obsessed with this boy that she's known since college named Sean Chaplin. And all she's ever wanted to do is marry him. And so she basically stalks him and moves back to where he lives and, like, wants to end up with him. And then unfortunately, as she moves in, she also has a stalker named Jeremy, who is also obsessed with her. And so it's about a stalker who also has a stalker. And you just think you know where it's gonna go, and then you don't. And so, like, it was really hard because, like, you wanted to root for her the entire time. Like, it wasn't like she was evil. Well, she definitely got crazy as the book went on. And it was like, the whole time, though, you wanted to keep rooting for her. Like, you wanted her to have her happy ending, and then the ending of this was just like, it's just cruel. It's just wrong. It is what it is. And so you definitely should read this. This one's definitely good. I have another book too that I'm reading for my December TBR because it has dual perspectives. I'm reading it as part of a readathon. This is called Haunt, and so I'll read this one soon. But I definitely would check this one out. It was definitely interesting. It was a great thriller. It is on the longer side. It's an almost 500-page read, so it's a little thick, and there is no audiobook for it yet, so just be aware you have to read this yourself, but definitely read it. I loved it. I loved the whole thing. It was a hit. This is the part in the video where I tell you that I messed up and then I skipped to 4.5 stars, so I only had I only had 5 stars. Oh my gosh, I only had 5 stars. Okay, so we're gonna segue back really quick and talk about the 2 4.5 stars that I read. First one, Kiss Quotient. So this I've been meaning to read forever. I also picked this up because of Noelle Gallagher, because I love anything and everything that she creates. And so this one is about Stella Lane, who is an econometrician, a person that does math and numbers and shit, basically. And she has Asperger's, and she basically thinks that she's not going to ever be able to, like, catch a man or date a man because, like, she's awkward and weird and doesn't know what to do. And so she thinks she needs help. So she hires a professional escort named Michael to basically be her boyfriend and teach her how to be good at sex and, like, how to be in a relationship and, like, you know, be attractive and, like, all of that. And, of course, it's a love story, so, of course, they're going to fall in love with each other and, like, all of that. I loved it. And when I say this was steamy, this was steamy. Like, this was the first audiobook that I tried reading this thing. And then as soon as the sex started to come in, I was like, I cannot listen to this and also read it. Like, I can't do it. I can't listen to steamy love scenes on audio. I just have to read that myself. So that was an interesting journey into the world of audiobooks. But it was super cute. I think the only reason I didn't give it 5 stars is because, like, romance is not, like, my favorite thing in the world. And, like, I feel like this kind of dragged on at times. But it was super cute. It was, like, the perfect little book. So if you're looking for a fun, cute little romance, definitely read this. I'm excited to pick up her other 2 books I have on my shelf up there. The Bride Test and The Heart Principle. So I'm going to be reading those soon. But this was super cute. The other book that was 4.5 stars that I do not actually have because my mom asked to borrow it because I finished it down in the Keys when I went to visit her. It's called Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix. And I've been waiting to read that for a while. Like, that had been on my list for a hot minute. And I finally read it. And it's basically about this final girl support group. So final girls, you know, are the last people to be alive in horror movies. And the book basically follows a group of 6 girls that are in a final girl support group, a therapy group that's led by this one woman named Dr. Caroline, I believe. And basically they all are different murders and like real life, like fiction ones. Like, one of them is like totally resembles like Halloween. One of them totally resembles Scream. One of them resembles Freddy Krueger. And like all of those sorts of things. And one of them like A Nightmare on Elm Street, all of that sort of stuff. So anyway, one of them shows up dead. So this is 16 years after the fact. One of them shows up dead. And so then they start to think that someone has actually come to like finish the job and kill all of the final girls that, you know, didn't get killed and they should have. It centers mainly about one of the main characters, whose name I am forgetting at the moment, but she was a little obnoxious for me. I believe it's Lynette Tarkington. And she was a little obnoxious for me, I'm not gonna lie. And that's kind of why I gave it a 4.5. I also gave it a 4.5 though, because the ending just didn't really make a lot of sense either. And the more that my mom and I talked about it, because she finished it too, a lot of stuff didn't add up, like with things that he wrote. And I was like, well, that wouldn't have been able to happen if this had happened, and this wouldn't have been able to happen. And so the more like we peeled back the layers, it kind of turned into like a 4.5. It was still a really intriguing read, and I still really loved it, but there were some things that I was like, I don't know about that. So yeah, so it was 4.5 stars, but it was really good. I'm definitely interested in reading more of Grady Hendrix's books. I need to read the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. I actually asked for that from my mom for Christmas, so fingers crossed that I get that. And I also want to read my best friend's Exorcism. That is also on my list. But we will see how we get there about that. And then my last 2 books, which were 5 stars, It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I finally read a Colleen Hoover book. I know, I need to get on the Colleen Hoover train. Like, what have I been doing with my life? I don't know. But this was the first one that I picked up, and it made me cry. Like, it was so sad. Although I did predict it. And this one it's basically really sad. So it's about a girl named Lily. She's lived a really hard life with like her family upbringing, and I'm not going to dive into that because that'll ruin the book. But basically she falls in love with this gorgeous neurosurgeon named Ryle Kincaid, whose whole thing is, I don't want to get in a relationship. Like, I can't do relationships. And then of course, you know that that's obviously not how that's going to happen. And so their relationship is like both exciting but disturbing at the same time. And so then she starts to remember her first love, Atlas, from high school, and a link to the past that she left behind, and she's wondering how he's doing now. And so of course he's going to pop back up into her life somehow in this novel, and she's going to have to choose between Ryle, which I don't like that name, Ryle, but Ryle, and Atlas is the other guy. And so this, I will say, it's very heavy trigger warnings on physical abuse and mental abuse, and there's a mention of suicide in this. So if you're like not about that, definitely don't read this, because that is definitely like a main at the forefront of this book. But it was just really beautiful to read. I loved how it wrapped up. I mean, you know how Colleen Hoover does. She just like breaks you and shatters you into a million pieces, and that's what this did. I just loved this. I can't wait for my next Colleen Hoover read. I actually also asked for Verity for Christmas from my mom. This is just the year of me asking for like all the books, but this was magical. And then my last book, which this was heavily inspired by Gabby Reads, because she has talked about this book a lot, and so I just had to pick it up. And that was Finlay, Donovan is Killing It, and this was another 5-star. Like, this was just the perfect, cute little like thriller slash like mystery slash like romance, and it wasn't even that much romance, but the romance that I had in it was great. And this is about Finlay Donovan. She's a mom. She's also a struggling novelist who's like divorced from her husband and is really broke and like needs to like finish her next book, and she has no motivation to do so. And she's at a meeting with her agent and they're talking about it because she writes murder novels, and someone ends up overhearing their conversation, thinking that she is a hit woman that like kills people, and basically the woman asks her if she can kill her husband for her, and she's like, oh my gosh, no, of course I can't do that. And so then it just kind of like turns into like, what happens if she decides to say yes to this? Like, does she turn into a hit mom? Like, what is the end of this? And like, she realizes she gets in way further than she should have. This was so funny. It cracked me up. It has like this fun little pairing of like the mom and the babysitter. They're just like the cutest little thing ever. Not that they're dating, but like their friendship. I loved it. And they were so comical and fun. And then it has the perfect little romance named Julian, the bartender. And he's so gorgeous and so cute. He's like everything you would want in a person. And I just loved this. I thought it was fabulous. I read through it so fast. It was just warm and fuzzy and exciting and funny and all the things that a book should be. And so it was a 5-star. I would definitely check it out. I can't wait for the next one, which is coming out super soon. And I believe Netflix is picking up a TV series on this, so even better. And those are all the books that I read for November. It was a really great month. I'm really glad that I had so much to read. I am going to start working on deciding what books I'm going to read for my December TBR, so stay tuned on that. I have a lot of reading vlogs planned. I have some fun videos planned. I'm just excited for where this booktube channel is going to go. But thanks for watching my first wrap up. I will link all of the books that I said below, like which ones I talked about, just so you can like add them to your TBR. Follow me on Goodreads, follow me on Storygraph, follow me on here, follow me on Instagram, follow me everywhere. Do you think I'm doing enough with my hands? I don't think so. Anyway, I hope that you enjoy this, and I will see you in our next video. Bye, friends.